Astro Royale Chapter 2 is finally here, so let's break it down. For this one, we're going to start off with Hebrew waking up, and it's soon that we find out it's been a 2-week time skip, which is huge, since the events of the last chapter. Now, this is small and in most series, but I do appreciate the like the small banter between characters like Hebrew and Tarasu, like the teasing and the joking. It really lightens up the the chapter and brings the mood up to a better place. Sadly, we kind of find out that Gramps from last chapter that Hebrew visits and helps out, he's lost his shop to the Astro disaster, but he's brave and he seems to carry this stoic personality and stoic outlook on life, so he doesn't let it bring him down. We're then met with what is looking to be the first villain. His crew. They're revealed to be profiting off the chaos, and this heavily reminded me of the TP and sanitizer hoarders during the 2020 pandemic, so we really hate these guys. It seems the family's Hawk faction has taken over the Yotsurugi family headquarters during Hebrew's 2-week slumber, because he just woke up, and I don't think anyone really knows that he's alive yet. And just like his father, Hebrew charges in and calls them out on their BS for hogging these supplies. Hogging supplies like some kind of thugs, it's pathetic. Now, Kinwaku is already making Hebrew such a lovable character, man. Like, just as I said last video, it's really hard to hate someone who stands up for the little guy and stands up to the bad, even when faced with someone with greater strength. And the Hawk faction tries to kick Hebrew out, and they're all pretty surprised he's still alive, so they didn't know. I don't think anyone knew, except for Tarasu. And they call Shio, and he's the boss. This next page is actually very interesting, as we see a first look at Shios Power and what's kind of meant to be the big villain, the first big villain. We see him sitting down with these rocks floating around him, and I'm going to put the chapter in the description if you guys want to see it. So these rocks are floating around him as he raises his arm, and this kind of reminded me of someone like Jiren whenever he was sitting there meditating and all those rocks were busting around him. And he says this, he says, "The gods chose me." Now, I can only assume that she was going to have some superiority or god complex that, Hebrew and Tarasu, they're going to have to take him down a peg. I can already see that happening. And I'm excited to see what his ability actually is. Now, going off on a small tangent here, not really because it's a chapter review, but we're going to theorize a little bit. So, if I were to theorize, we see floating rocks around him, but I don't want to move directly to the gravity concept. We don't really know exactly what's going on, and I kind of feel like it would be OP but weak at the same time. Given its severity, Hebrew's arm is like basically a gun. His punches are pistols that explode, so unless the gravity with him is, or the gravity with Shio is like super intense, Hebrew just kind of counters him, Floating away isn't going to do anything. It's a gun. The gun still works in space, unless it's like very, very intense and there's a lot of gravity and only Shio can withstand it. But then again, like, there's very little to go off of. This panel could simply be rocks falling down after Shio did something, like knocking them up with a punch. So who really knows what's to come with this character or this power, but overall I like his design, and he seems cold as hell, and he seems like a pretty good setup for a villain. The whole he was supposed to be the family will to take over thing. He's supposed to be the new boss, and everyone backed him, but his father's last words were anything but him, seems to be. So he wants the story to be Shio. He wants to spread the story that Hebrew and Tarasu died in the meteor strike, and they've been resting for 2 weeks. So when Hebrew and Tarasu actually showed up at the Hawk faction, everyone was surprised. They thought they were dead, and Shio sends a kill order to the goons at the headquarters and the faction and all those people that are on his side. So in this next page, they start to close in on Hebrew, and this is where things really heat up as we get the first look at someone's Astro Power aside from the MCs. This guy standing against Hebrew wished upon the shooting star to be able to kill people with his bare hands, and oh boy, is that exactly what he got. Colossal Blade Arm, as he calls it. It's just one big blade backed by some smaller blades that sprout from the outer parts of his right arm. And this comes with an object too. Everyone has an object this is linked to. And just as we thought last chapter, there's going to be many people with superpowers in this manga. Another guy seems to have a steel shell, as if nothing could cut through him. He claims to have a body of steel. So moving forward, the Blade dude takes a big swing at Hebrew and Tarasu, but it's easily dodged. Hebrew decides to fight back, and we get a sick ass page with it. If wishes mean power, then my wish is really freaking strong. We get Hebrew's first attack against an enemy, and it's a barehanded Magnum Blast. You know, this might be kind of a mouthful. Not really. It's no Getsuga Tensho, but it's no Gum Dum Pistol. But barehanded Magnum Blast. I think that sounds pretty sick for the concept of his power. I like it. And so Hebrew no diffs the steel shell body guy, knocks him away. He flies away with one punch. And the rest of the faction retreats as Hebrew takes the victory, but not without leaving a message for Shio that he'd take him on any day or night. Now that's my MC, man. I do like Hebrew. I'm investing in Hebrew stocks. The civilians cheer for Hebrew outside as he unlocks the supplies for the disaster, so they're not hoarding them anymore. Hebrew takes them over and everyone else leaves, the bad guys. And Hebrew, after this, Hebrew takes the usual payment from Gramps that comes up to him, and this is a concept I'm actually completely in love with from the very first chapter, so I'm glad to see it happen again. He's just like his dad, and he's really looking out for the little guy while putting on this gang member delinquent act of collecting, quote unquote, collecting protection money. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this chapter. It was a short one. It was only 28 pages. The first one was 58, but I do want him to take his time, draw whatever he can while being healthy and keeping the story rich. Going forward, we're going to have a lot more from Shio, and I can only imagine like the conflicts and battles that are going to be soon taking place. So let me know in the comments what your guys' favorite moment is from these two chapters, or your favorite character. If you did enjoy and want to see more Astro Royale, Tokyo Rev, or shonen anime or manga related content, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Alekai, and I will see you guys in the next one.